Good morning. Good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome each of you with us this morning. We will now have our call to order and have our roll call following that. Well, I don't believe it's working.
Doesn't appear to be.
All right. You make a note who's here.
Yes, all present except for Dr. Johnson.
All right. Let's stand, please, and we'll have our invocation and our pledge.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you this morning for your many blessings upon us. We thank you once again for the opportunity of coming together as a community. We pray that you might be with each one of us today as we conduct the business of our county. We pray that you might give us the wisdom and the discernment we need to make those decisions that are best for our citizens and those decisions that will glorify you. These blessings we pray in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge of allegiance to our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have one addition to the agenda, and that is under items of decision. There is a document at each of you's desk, issue pertaining to the courthouse, and with that addition, do we have a motion to approve this?
Second.
All right. Still raising hands. Everybody raise your right hands and approve of that. Thank you. Okay, James, I believe you're next.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We
Good
have
morning.
one item for consideration and during a public hearing this morning. This is a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance. This is not a rezoning, however. It's not an amendment to the map. It's actually an amendment to the text. What we have today is a proposal that's been brought forward by Trudy Halstead concerning the addition of the term halfway house into our zoning ordinance. We do have a definition, however, we do not have in our permitted table, use table, a listing for a halfway house. So therefore, the need for this particular change to the ordinance. There are several different type of institutions that you may be familiar with already. For example, there's a family care home that is exempt by state law that the only requirement that local governments can enforce is a half-mile separation. There's also a halfway house and a group care facility. What we're proposing today is that the halfway house and the group care facility be mirrored similarly in our use table. So what you'll see in front of you now is the proposal and having these particular types of uses as a conditional use. That would bring, anytime a proposal came through for a particular location to be used for a group care facility or a halfway house, it would come before this board for consideration. So where would this be included? For a group care facility within rural agricultural, rural residential, suburban residential, multifamily, office and institutional, and general commercial. Again, all of these uses, we are still proposing half-mile separation between similar type uses. There's also requirements for screening and the types of the number of folks that would be allowed at this type of facility. More specifically, a halfway house, you'll see the same types of requirements here, where they would be allowed with a conditional use permit that would be approved by the board, would be in rural agriculture, rural residential, suburban residential, multifamily residential, office institutional, and general commercial districts. So any of those districts, it would be allowed provided that the board approved the conditional use permit. Half-mile separation still required, screening of the parking lot as well. Also, we have to put in requirements as far as the number of parking spaces, and that's included in the parking requirements. The actual definition, and again, we're amending that as well. The definition's currently in our ordinance, but one statement that we wanted to ensure was included, these types of facilities, the halfway homes, need to be licensed by the state of North Carolina as well. The state of North Carolina considers these types of facilities as a mental health facility. So in turn, there's a need to ensure that the state has reviewed it as well. This has been brought before our planning board. That group unanimously recommended approval of the changes that we're bringing before you today, and today we've scheduled the public hearing. Our proposal is to have this take effect immediately. And we have two motions before you after the public hearing. First, to approve the proposed amendments. And again, this is our first set of regulations that are going in, any amendments that are going into our new code of ordinances. So there's also a second motion to include these replacement pages within the code of ordinances book. Public hearing.
I declare the public hearing open. Do we have anyone signed up to speak to this issue?
Yes, sir. We have three people. First is Ann Griffin. If you'll come forward to the podium, please. Give your name and address.
Good morning.
Ann Griffin, 412 Forest Park in Greenville. I work with Trudy Halstead as just kind of her right hand through this project. It operates, God's Love 118 is the title. We're operating under the auspices of God's Love, a nonprofit. We started the program a year ago in July, and we think it's down on 9th Street, we think the ladies would profit greatly from being at the campus with God's Love in a country facility. And that's why we're asking for this variation and the special use permit. I have some copies, if you would like, of some information from a website about the licensing requirement. This is not a mental health facility, and we do not offer mental health counseling. So if anyone would like a printout, I'll be happy to bring them up and supply those. And we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
Next, we have Trudy Halstead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing this morning? Well, we're here, like Ann said, just to give these ladies a safe place to live. We already have requirements that they have to go by. We only have 6 available beds for the ladies. They are not allowed to have cars at the facility where we are now, and they won't be allowed to have cars then. We have volunteers that take them everywhere that they need to go. So parking would not be an issue. And the only thing that we ask is if you would please consider helping us in this, because we're here to help these ladies get acclimated back to the community after their lives have been devastated, and we're just trying to get them back acclimated to the community.
Thank you, Trudy. Anybody else?
Yes, next we
Chairman, I
have,
want to ask James, Mr. Rose, a question. James, is there any other buffers that are necessary other than the half-mile distance in between?
No, sir. This is a half-mile distance between any other similar facility, whether it's a halfway house, group home, or family care home. So again, the intent there is, and the state kind of set this up a few years back, is to ensure there's not a concentration of these type of homes in one particular area.
James, I think this is wonderful that they're doing this, but you're not covering not only what she's doing, you're taking in a lot of other things.
Not necessarily. What we're trying to do is making sure that we're getting things consistent. The group care home has development standards now that are very similar, if not identical, to what you've got in here. The only difference is these types of uses now come before this board versus being at a staff level. We're really concerned that the community may want to have input on these types of facilities before they go into certain neighborhoods. We would prefer that to come out in an open environment like this.
James, do you even know how many is in Pitt County?
We have a listing. We try to track these based off building permits, and we are required to ensure that that half-mile limitation is met. So we attempt every way we can, and we are in touch with the state. We get periodic updates of all their licensed facilities. So I feel like we've got a good handle on them.
All right, well, wait a minute. Are they going to be from Pitt County?
The residents?
Yes.
I cannot ensure that.
No, you cannot, because they're not. They're from all over the state. And they're privately, there's a company that's, I know because there's one in Bethel, there's one within, on a piece of land that I own. They don't even keep it mowed or anything. And that's the reason I'm asking you if you know how many there is and what type of people there. They move in and out. That's the reason. Now, like she's working, that's a completely different thing, but you have included those houses in with what she wants. Am I not correct?
No, sir.
All
There are
right,
two different definitions. What we're dealing with this morning, the halfway house,
All right, that's good.
is on the screen in front of you, is for not more than 9 persons who have demonstrated a tendency toward alcoholism, drug abuse, mental illness, or antisocial or criminal conduct, together with not more than 2 persons providing supervision or other services to such persons, all of whom live together in a single unit.
Yeah.
So this is the definition we're dealing with specifically for her. And then the group home, we want to treat that facility the exact same way, bring it through the same process.
All right, mental health. She is not dealing with mental health, she says. You are. That's the reason I say it's different. It's what you're asking than what she is asking for. But
No, what I have indicated, Mr. James, is that this is, per the state of North Carolina, considered a mental health facility. That is what I've mentioned. But there are, in the definition here, other aspects as well as mental health issues.
Mr. Chairman, can I just interject one comment, and that being that
All right.
this is only a text amendment. They would have to come back forward, file an application, go through a public hearing process, through a conditional use permit for the specific use they're seeking. So they're not getting that today. They're just kind of telling you ahead of time that's what they would seek if it was allowed in the ordinance, if the text amendment is approved.
But, Mr. Manager, what about all these that are already in Pitt County and nobody, I don't know what's going on with them really, and I can take you to one.
I think we
That's
need
the
to
only one that I know about.
be careful as to what those type of facilities are. Again, family care homes are not regulated and cannot be regulated by the county except for this half-mile separation. And whenever one comes through, we ensure that half-mile separation is met. The group homes, the halfway homes, to our knowledge, have not been approved in Pitt County since the time zoning's been in place.
And what is the definition then? You read that out, and that included mental health and so forth.
Yes, it
And
does.
when they have mental health, they have to have counseling. Is that not correct?
I cannot say. It may not have to necessarily be at that facility. I would assume there may need to be some counseling services at some place.
I'll support it. I mean, it's.
Mr.
I think it's
Malone.
good what they're doing.
In view, I want to commend Ms. Trudy Halstead for, her action in terms of dealing with this. I think is a tremendous problem in Pitt County, that we can have someone to take an initiative to go and try to help these individuals. In view of what Mr. Rose has outlined, I'd like to make a motion at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Not yet, Melvin. We haven't closed the public
Okay.
hearing yet.
All
All
right, thank you.
right, anything else, Melvin?
And I'm through.
Did you want to say something, Scott?
Well, we do have one other person signed
Yeah.
up for the public hearing, as well as
Right.
anybody else who may want to speak.
All right, come around, please.
Scott Griffin.
Scott Griffin, 2201 Saddle Ridge Place in Greenville. Thanks for seeing us this morning. We certainly do appreciate it. Just a couple things I wanted to bring up is we're a little confused regarding the conditional use permit versus state license. I think if we're talking about a conditional use permit, we would be happy to fulfill those requirements as long as we fully understand that. If you visited the home where the ladies are today, I think you would find everything in order, and as Ann mentioned, going out to the county will enable us to provide even better homes for the 4 to 6 women that we currently have, and that's the extent of the program that we're trying to develop. No mental health services are being supplied. It's if services like that are needed, we go into the community to find licensed professionals to provide those services, whether they're job training, mental health issues, all those things are not provided by us, but provided by professionals in the community. If we do have to face state licensing, this is the initial license packet of 28 pages we'd have to fill out. I'm afraid that the time and the financial burden would probably be such that we wouldn't be able to proceed with our plans. So just wanted to bring those comments before you. Thank you.
All right. Now do we,
Chairman,
yes, sir.
we might note that, and Mr. James said these facilities are on the increase. The state is going out of the business of furnishing these types of services and closing down so many facilities that did in the past. So that's why you see so many of these types of facilities opening up across the state.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Do we have anyone else signed up to participate in the public hearing? If not, I declare the public hearing closed. Now back to the board members. We've got 2 motions that is recommended. What's the desire of the board?
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed amendment with an immediate effective date, and the second one adopt the replacement pages in the Code of Ordinance.
Second.
And update the historical notes.
All right. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
that motion then would include that that the facilities have to be licensed by the state. Because that's what the proposal
That is correct.
here.
That is our proposal.
And I know they expressed some concern about that, and I was just wondering, is that a necessary piece of this? And is having the state license and the conditional use permit, are they duplicates?
No, sir. I think there are 2 different issues here. We feel that the licensure by the state ensures that things inside the home are handled appropriately. What we're more concerned with from the zoning end of things are the land use components, the separation, the parking, the compatibility of the adjacent land uses. So we're dealing with more the exterior type effects. So we feel like it would be a good idea to. We're not staunchly saying it's got to be in there. We feel like it's another layer to ensure that it is operated appropriately.
Okay.
Did you finish, Mr. Garris?
Yes.
Ms. Ward?
James, do we have, I know this is a halfway house and I understand the difference, but do we have other homes that are not licensed by the state but that are in our zoning ordinance guide that you know of?
We are not aware of any halfway houses in the unincorporated part of the
Or
county.
any houses of that type, or
I am
by
aware,
whatever other name, mental health houses, whatever.
I'm familiar with the one that is currently run by Ms. Halstead in the city. And there may be others, but that's really the only one I've got a working knowledge of.
Okay.
Anything else, Ms. Ward?
Right.
If not, we have 2 motions made, you know, in conjunction, one with the other. If there's no further discussion, you ready to vote? All in favor of the motion, let's vote. All opposed, that motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something?
Yes, sir, Mr. James.
Their situation, I was trying to bring it out, is different than these halfway houses, most of them that we deal with. And I'm like Commissioner Garris, we're gonna have to do something to help them out on that situation. And they're not in it for the money. These people that I'm talking about, they bring them in, they're there for money. And there's a big difference in that. And that, when you go to a halfway house, really, by James's definition, you're gonna have to have state requirements just like you do on your daycare centers. And you have to have rules and regulations, and somebody has to enforce those rules and regulations. And that's where your state comes in, of course, and the county working in conjunction with one another. But I don't know, I don't have the answer to it, but I think James is gonna have to take and to work with them to make sure that, we don't, hinder their operations and what they are doing, because they have, they're doing that thing that's good for these women that they are dealing with.
Thank you, Mr. James. Now we're down to the public address to the board, Mr. Manager.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have two people signed up for public addresses to the board. If Harry Till Sr. will come forward and give us please state your name and address.
Mr. Chairman, I'll keep your time at 3 minutes per speaker.
Thank you. Come around, Mr. Till. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Some of y'all might call me a troublemaker. Most of the time I come out here, it's not before me, it's for the ones that I care for and the less fortunate one. I come before you all today, my name is Harry Till, 2686 Old River Road. Been in business for 40 years. Begin giving back to the community. My concern now is Thanksgiving is coming up, Christmas is coming up. Sheriff Elk saying the concealed weapon permit is skyrocketing. We take these peoples out here, they file a 50 round, qualify, and give them a permit. They took those handguns, put them in the purse or the glove box. Nowhere to price it. My thing is I want the county or some citizen, landowner, to try to get somewhere for safety, fine range. Safety is a key issue out here. It's 4 incidents, gun-related, that happened recently. My son, Harry Jr., went to school with him, and you check the background, their father's not in prison. Some of your farmers here, they got all your land. Mr. Owen, Mr. James, you're the key issue. I mean, one of the main ones. Y'all know y'all own farms. I have hunted on either one of y'all farms. Some of your farm may be into the hunting club. The hunting club is taking this land and charging anywhere from $600 to $1,000 per year to hunt. What about the less fortunate child? That grandpa or grandma inherited, left him a handgun or a long rifle. Sooner or later, he going to try it, to shoot something, somewhere or somebody. So I'm asking the county to come up with some issue, some program to train the safety of these guns. We own a little piece of property out there, maybe 40, 50 acres. If the county doesn't have the funds, I want Mr. Rowe to give me some kind of leeway or some idea that the people that in my community and other areas that want to teach safety for these guns, not only handgun, long gun. I'm gonna try to put something up. Mr. James and Mr. Warren, I would appreciate it if y'all would give something back to the community. Y'all have made all y'all money in the community. If you give anything back, give it back to your community. You don't have to send it to Iraq, Africa, somewhere. Do it here. So the children today is gonna be the leaders tomorrow. If we don't train our children, what's gonna happen? And another issue I need to think about. I was up here a while back talking about a veteran. Friday is Veteran Day. We're trying to get our children and our kids and the soldier back home. Ask yourself, what is they coming home to? No job, no family. Some of them have wives and family have left them. And the honest mean of survivor is that M16. If we don't have somewhere where they can let some steam off and teach them safety, we're gonna have a chaos here. So I'm here today, my son, grandson, Harry Jr. He work at the Fountain Correctional Center. Occasionally, some of the schools take these kids through their tour. He's a maintenance man up there. And let them know what impact, if you do wrong, what would happen. My sister Jeanette over here, stand up, baby. She went to school for social work. And our number 3 minutes of it, this is a key issue. 1993 in Stokes, it was a killing, an AK-47. My son know the kid that done the killing. She was misidentified and stopped out here on Green Street. Our officer, Sheriff Ellis might know about it, got my son out, was 9 years old, my daughter, which was 15 years old, had them out on the ground with shotgun within 8 inches of their head. We was up here arguing and crying my heart out, asking the sheriff department to the ones that were involved, go to these schools and tell the children how to react when you got a federal vehicle stop. The county spent over $170,000 defending, and all we want was a handshake and a personal apology, and we didn't get it. So my friends, I'm asking you today, we need to do something because we gonna have a chaos here. My son of age now, he know what's going on in the street. Things that I can find out you can't. Mr. Owen, you're the defense lawyer, you know what's going on. I'm telling you, if we don't do something here, Pitt County, it's gonna be in trouble.
Thank you,
I ain't
Mr.
worried about
Taylor.
the other county. I want
Appreciate
Pitt
your
County to do
concern.
something.
We'll see if we can get your response.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir. Okay.
We now have Harry Till Jr.
Come around, Mr. Teal. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. It's kind of something to come off of right there. Well, the issue is, in 1993, I was stopped by the sheriff's office, and a friend of mine, he was killed, and another friend of mine, I knew him, did the killing. But with the guns, if my father had not gave me training, you know, with them being in the military about guns and what they do and what they can, the impact they have on animals and people, whatever, that night gave me fear and rage, because all we wanted was a public pardon. We couldn't get that. It put a lot of rage in my body. And through prayer and my dad debriefing me on that situation, it kind of enlightened me on law enforcement that everything is okay. But if it hadn't, you know, I like guns. I have a lot of guns. This would put a gun in my hand and make me, okay, well, if the police can do it, you know, pointing guns and everybody, I've been on the other end of a barrel. Some of you have not. That was a very, very bad experience. The thing is, the crime rate is on the rise, and everybody want to exercise their right to bear arms of the holidays. It's going. It's coming. The crime rate is on the rise. What he wants is just in the schools, colleges, or whatever, just get a gun safety class. Just let everybody know what happens if you're on the other end of the barrel, or if you're being shot or even shooting someone. What happens? What will happen if that gun releases a bullet and it hits something? I know what it does. I've hunted. I still do hunt. I like hunting. So basically, we just need to put it out there and let them know what will happen. What will happen if you get shot or you shoot somebody with a gun? A lot of people buy guns. The gun show used to be at the National Guard Armory. Now it's at the convention center. So many cars there, they got to park it in the Hilton parking lot. You know, everybody wants to bear arms now to protect themselves and their family. But like my father says, you buy guns and you put it in a drawer and you never see it no more. Somebody comes in your house, you're scrambling trying to get the gun. You had no training, you don't know what's going on. Just get some safety. That's all we need.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
That's all we have signed up.
All right, manager's report.
Okay, on the manager's report, item A, next meeting dates. Next meeting for this month is November 21st at 6 p.m. The first meeting in December will be December 5th at 9 a.m. I want to bring your attention to item B. We have two grant funding applications that have been applied for by staff. First, one is to the Wells Weston Perkins Trust Fund. This is by Alice Keene on behalf of the district park to complete the picnic tables and shelter there at the park. This is for $24,000. Next, we have a grant to the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. This is for $5,000 on behalf of the animal shelter by Michelle Whaley. There's no match required on this, and these funds will be helped to remodel what we call our cat kitten room. Item C, I want to bring your attention, as was announced in the last meeting, Pitt County was designated one of 100 best communities for young people in America. We'll be using our funding that was provided by this designation for a community celebration on November 12th, this coming Saturday, from 10:30 to 2:30 at the district park. And we'd like to invite the public, commissioners, and anybody who would like to come out for that. Item D on the radio system project, as you're aware, we have awarded a contract to Motorola for the implementation of that project. We still have a couple of other components that are out there in an RFP response for proposal process. Did want to let the board know that as part of this process, we have met with several times over all of the entities in Pitt County, whether municipalities, whether the hospital, whether ECU, anybody who could be considered a partnering entity on this project. who may want to come in and utilize some of the radio capacity of this new radio system. The meeting before last, we met with everybody, asked everybody to submit a letter of intention if they were anticipating coming on the radio system. At that point, only the City of Greenville, through the Public Works Department, chose to do so. And right now, at this point in time, they're the only entity who's coming on. The project is not, we're not in need of them to make this project go, but we do have the capacity that if they do want to sign on, they can. So we've developed an interlocal agreement, and this will be executed with the city. There is a participation fee that's built into this agreement where they provide us a certain amount per radio on a quarterly basis. So it does provide a small amount of revenue stream. Item E, there's actually a misprint on the agenda. That should say adjustment to fire instead of 5, but adjustment to fire response lines. Wanted to bring to the board's attention that as you are aware, we are working on the Fire Service District project, which is a much larger project, and we have actually completed that project and we're ready to bring it forward to you. But prior to proceeding with that project, staff is cleaning up out of the 20 fire response districts. And again, your fire response district is your overall response district, not your tax district, not your insurance district, but the response lines. We're cleaning up 7 of 20 of those to allow citizens who are not paying a tax to be allowed to be assigned to the closest district in terms of their ISO insurance rating. We've identified there's 129 properties that are affected by 5 of the 20 response areas that could enjoy a lower ISO rating, which means that when they go for renewal on their hazard or home insurance, they can enjoy a lower premium associated with that. Out of the 129 properties, there's 88 that actually have a structure or a building value that's identified with that, so more than half. So we're cleaning that up. We'll bring that to you. We will adjust the lines, the fire response lines. Then our intention is then to come back to you and then to complete the process we started with the creation of fire service districts that is well underway. Technically, we could have came here this morning, had on the agenda, and proceeded with that, but we thought it was important that if there were property owners in Pitt County that could benefit from a lower ISO rating that will then affect their annual or monthly or quarterly, however they pay their hazard insurance, that it was important that we clean that up first prior to proceeding with the overall service district. But everything's still, the timeline, we're still exactly where we need to be, and we will still be able to implement all of this well within the time frame that we had originally laid out. One other item not on the agenda, I forgot to clarify in the last meeting when Commissioner McLawhorn was on the phone. He actually teleconferenced in, but he asked me to, in Commissioner's comments, in Manager's comments, and I forgot to mention it, that he was out of state on the PCMH, Pitt County Memorial Hospital board business, but he was teleconferenced into the meeting. I think he's wanted the board to know and the public to know that he was actively involved, had a foot in both the PCMH world and the Pitt County Board of Commissioners world. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next matter.
Next matter is a ABC board update. If Teresa Campbell will come forward, she has 2 items to report on. One is the year-end financials through June 30th of 2011, and the other is the first quarter activities and the county distribution that was provided earlier this month.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. It's good to see you all this morning.
Good morning.
This morning, I've come to give you a brief overview of the fiscal audit for year 2001. I'll be discussing the retail and mixed beverage sales, the net assets, and direct financial benefits from ABC operations to the county. I will also give you a short report on the first quarter 2012 figures. First, retail sales. Retail sales for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2011 were $11,510,250. $276,090 increase over the fiscal year ending June 30th of 2010. Mixed beverage sales. Total mixed beverage sales for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2011 were $2,992,914, which was a $146,285 increase from fiscal year ending June 30, 2010, which was 4.7%. Mixer sales also decreased by 2.6%. If you'll notice here on the gross sales that the overall change was 0.9%, and that's the retail sales minus the mixed beverage sales minus the mixer sales, which comes up with a total percentage change of 9%, 0.9%. Pitt County ABC Board net assets, or net assets before distributions were made, was $1,477,492. We made deductions for law enforcement of $269,574, alcohol education $84,649, and the profit distribution county to Pitt was $1,150,000, and which brought us to a change in net assets of negative $26,730, and that just means basically we took that money out of our working capital to be able to make that profit distribution. Direct financial benefits from ABC operations to Pitt County. If you'll notice here, Pitt County General Fund received $1,150,000. Beverage price support was $52,143, and this is an additional 1 cent per 50 milliliter and 5 cents per bottle larger than 50 milliliter, known as beverage price support. It's collected and distributed monthly to the county commissioners for alcohol education and rehabilitation. The amount remitted here is, like I said, $52,143. State law also mandates that 7% of our net profits go for alcohol education and rehabilitation, of which has been divided 5.5% for East Carolina Behavioral, and 1.5% is split between the Greenville Community Shelter and the Family Violence Center. In fiscal year 2011, $10,000 was also given to ECU to help fund their College Out program. Incoming freshmen must complete an online class and pass a test in order to be able to register for next semester's classes. Here's our gross sales for the first quarter. We're going to switch on from the end of the year stuff over to the first quarter. If you can, as you can see on the first quarter comparison table, the change in net assets has increased over the 2011. After the deduction for law enforcement, alcohol education, and the 3.5% profit distribution of $91,000 to the county, it left us with about $186,610 to use as working capital. This working capital was used to buy product for our Christmas and for our second quarter sales. If you'll notice that last year that we took $102,756 out of our working capital to be able to make the $275,000 distribution. So our actual sales were $243,511.70. And our mixed beverage sales were, the change was $36,293, and mixer sales were down a little. So we actually had a total sales increase over last year's figures of $279,583. And the reason for that being is September of last year we didn't have any football games. This year we had 3, so that made an increase in sale. We kind of flip-flopped. October we had less football games this year than last. Okay, on your next slide here, it shows the distribution. Shows the beverage price support plus the profit distribution for the first quarters of 2010, 11, and 12 for a total of the distribution made to the county. And if you'll notice, first quarter 2010, it was total distribution was $262, $333, $44, and then first quarter 2011, it was $337. We had an additional $50,000 that we brought over from the previous year to make in that first, which made that first distribution. It was the $275 plus the additional $50, so it was $325 plus, which came out to be a total of $337,205. And for first quarter of this year, we paid the $12,000 for the beverage price support, and then we made the 3.5% profit distribution was $91,000, which came to a total of $103,933.62. So in summary, the Pitt County ABC Board has increased our retail sales, and mixed beverage sales continue to decrease. We finished renovating our 10th Street store in July and renovated our location in Farmville to help increase our revenue. It's the board's plan to grow, increase revenue, and to meet the needs of the citizens of Pitt County. The board plans to build additional consumer-friendly stores, remodel existing stores, provide additional products to satisfy our customer trends, and offer additional educational service to help reduce underage drinking. Since the new legislation passed, the North Carolina ABC Commission will be auditing all our ABC stores on performance. The required standards that will be assessed are store appearance, operating efficiency, solvency, and customer service. The Pitt County ABC Board and its employees are dedicated to providing control, revenue, a good selection of products that are focused toward consumers, and stores located to best serve the citizens of Pitt County while generating as much revenue as possible. Thank you for your attention. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
All right, board, you want to start this end, come all around? All right,
good.
Mr. Hammond, you started.
I don't have any comment.
All right, Mr. James.
Junction.
Oh, I have a lot of them. Number one, does the state of North Carolina require you to have law enforcement, or could the sheriff's department be in charge of the enforcement of the laws that you do have for the ABC board?
They don't require us to, but we have a certain percentage that we set aside for law enforcement, and we choose to do that.
All right, so if we decided the bill is going up, I checked on it each year,
Yes,
big
sir.
time. You're gonna have a big retirement bill. 20 years from now, it's gonna blow your mind as what it is. How many employees do you have now that, on that? I know it's in excess of $300,000 in your budget.
Yes.
All right, how many employees do you have?
Total employees?
No, sure, and law enforcement. Now, I'm
just
just dealing with law enforcement
Three.
right now.
We have three.
You have $300,000+, and then you got your other stuff.
Correct.
Isn't that's a lot more money we pay the sheriff's people. This is where I'm going to. What is that salaries?
Their salaries, I couldn't tell you right now. I'd have to look that up.
All right, but anyway, I want all of you to be thinking about that. We need, instead of spending more money over that, we need to cut back on money and use it where we'll get the most good. And I've had more problems with them, or some of the people that I work with, well, with one of your employees. I won't go there. We'll stay away from that.
Okay.
All right, but now, the reason you're not making profit, of course, the new building that you built, how much money did you pay for it?
We actually, the property, the land, it probably came up to about $1.3 million by the time we paid for everything and the stock
That's not
included.
what I read in this. Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
I thought it was more than that, but I won't go there on that. I got a lot of questions, Mark,
Okay,
but they
go
won't
ahead.
let me talk that long. But anyway, what we need and through other sources or some kind of way is, of course, as much money for education, sheriff's department and stuff that we can get. And of course, I kind of told you that.
Yes, sir.
And we're not interested in these great big buildings. You all might be, you want to make it attractive. If we would go to the hospital and other places, alcohol is a big contributor in Pitt County to broken homes and everything else. I won't even go that. But it's something that we have as leaders in our community that we're always concerned about. And I better not, let the rest of them ask questions. They're gonna probably ask the same questions I want to ask, and I've talked enough, so let them go ahead.
All right, Mr. Malone.
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Ethan.
As I understand it, you sold more of the product, 276,000. Where did that money go? Did it go into fund balance or buying the?
It went into the working capital, and we used that working capital to buy Christmas product as well as stuff for the second quarter.
Okay, how
We
much?
didn't just, we're not hoarding money. We're giving everything that we can.
How much Christmas product do you, of that 276?
All of it. I can buy, one truck of liquor probably cost me about $125,000.
Okay.
Just one semi-truck. And we've had 2 trucks every week for the last 4 weeks.
Okay. When you buy it by the truckload, you get it cheaper, or?
No, sir. In fact, it's based on cases. When we get cases, we're charged extra for each case. We get a charge on each case. So,
How
no, we
much-
don't get a discount the more we buy.
How much has your fund balance increased from last year at this same time?
$200,000.
200,000. In other words, a $276,000 increase that you sold a product for, the payment to the county didn't, it was not reflected in any way to that.
No, sir.
Okay. Move on down.
All right, Ms. Ward.
Could you tell me how much money was in the working capital fund before you put the $260-some thousand in it? I mean,
Hold
I
on,
imagine it's in our booklet, I just couldn't find
Because
it.
that's actually something I got I just got the first quarter figures on Friday afternoon.
Look,
And I
what
do
was
have
it,
that.
what was it in 2010?
Um,
I mean, what was it at the beginning?
As of 6/30/2011,
Okay.
6/30/2010, excuse me. Yeah, well, that was 11. It was $1,747,000.
And then you added the $260-some thousand to it.
No, working capital as of, the target as of, before we added the 2,000 back, or the 200,000 back, was 2 million. That was our target, was 2,500,000. It was not
Okay, but
actually at that.
all I want to know is how much was actually in the working capital before you put in the first quarter for 2011?
2,049,000.
Okay, so there was 2 million already there.
Right.
That you could have used to buy the Christmas liquor with.
Now, it's not cash. Majority of that was product already. Probably about $1.7 million. Would you say, David, about $1.7 million? About $1.7 million was already in product. We didn't actually have that much cash.
Okay, but you did have over $1 million in there then.
Yes.
If only $1 million something
Yes.
was in product. And then you added the 200 and some million. Where I'm headed with this, of course, and I'm just going to make the statement because my questions were, what was our profit for the first quarter of 2010? What's the profit for first quarter of 2011? What was the payment you made to us? Let me get to that last year in 2010 after the first quarter.
Okay.
What was it?
Hold on just a second.
I know it's in here. I just want
Yes, it
the
is.
public to hear it.
Sales. Okay. The net assets before distributions, is that what you're asking for?
I'm asking the quarterly payment for the first quarter.
The first quarter of 2010, our payment was, let's see,
To the citizens of Pitt County, not to us, excuse me.
no, the county in general, that's, we made a profit distribution of $85,023. $8,880 went to working capital, and an additional profit distribution was of $164,977.
What's the total that you passed to the
What's the
county first
total
quarter?
amount of money that was passed to the county at the end of the first quarter in 2010?
$250,000.
Okay. And what is it proposed to be this 2011 paying to the county, citizens in the county? The budget.
The budget, the total amount for the year,
First quarter for
Nine-
2011.
The first quarter we made, the 3.5% was 91,000. Is that what is that the figure?
That's
you're
my
looking for?
question.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
the statement I want to make now is that the profit is up over 200 and some
The
thousand dollars.
sales are up, not the profit.
Okay, the sales are up, and they were projected to be down, and I understand about the football games and all that sort of stuff. In the end, after the year comes out, we're going to still make a profit
Yes.
in liquor in Pitt County every quarter. My question is, if we have increased the amount of money for this quarter, why are we down by, come on, mathematician? We're over $100,000.
And that's what I was saying. We took that money.
I know you
and bought
did, but
products.
I remember, and one of our final meetings was that there was going to be a concerted effort to meet what we were expecting.
Yes, ma'am.
For the budget for this year. $91,000 to me is not a concerted effort. When you had $1 million plus, you didn't have to use all of that 200 and some $1,000 profit, or whatever you want to call it, to purchase Christmas liquor. That's my point, to meet the obligation that we feel like the ABC Board has to us for the quarter, or for the citizens of Pitt County. And I hope I've made my point.
I understand.
Is that it, Bill?
Yes.
Mr. Gass?
Question for my clarification. On this ABC annual performance report, it says the net profit for 2011 is $1,123,000, but then in this report on page 23, the actuals to page prior to 23, it has down here net profit after taxes of $1,477,000. What is the difference between those two numbers?
I don't think I have that page.
If you look at page 23 and back up one page that isn't numbered, it's the profit and loss statement by store, but then there's the total for all of the stores, the first column. See the net profit after taxes of $1,477,000.
Okay. And your question was?
And my question is, on this report, Scott, you may know, that on this report, it says the net profit for 2011 was $1,123,000.
The difference of $264,101. Melanie, do you remember?
That's probably the law enforcement and the alcohol education, the difference between those.
My problem is both of them say net profit,
Right.
so.
Okay. I'll have to check that out.
Okay,
and
fine.
see what
Okay,
that
my
is.
second concern is, in the statement you made about your board's goals, that statement you read, nowhere in there did I hear that one of your goals was also to meet our need of 1.1 million. Is that in there and I missed it, or is it just not in there?
We've made that, I think, pretty clear with the letter that we sent to the chairman.
Well, I
is
thought
our-
you did too. I really thought you did too, until I received the letter on your first quarter's distribution of only 91, because I was expecting 275 to be consistent with the commitment or the stated objective of your chairman in the letter he wrote back in August.
Well, I was under the impression after I met with Scott and the attorneys, and that it didn't matter if you got 275, as long as at the end of the year, we met our goal.
That is absolutely correct. So, am I to conclude from that the next quarter's check, since you are saying that some of the money that you spent and was not available to the county for distribution was spent to build inventory, so can we expect that the second check for the second quarter will be the second quarter payment that we were expecting of 275 plus
more
the
than likely-
delta
I can't-
between the 91 and the 275 for the first quarter?
As long as the sales don't bottom out, and we do great sales like we have in the past, I don't see a problem with that.
Make sure we record that.
It won't matter.
Mr. Chairman.
I have
Yes,
one other
Ms. Davis.
comment.
Yes, sir.
One other comment. You know, we have been working together, discussing this issue for some time. and correct me and help me understand this. It appears to me that the philosophy, the operating philosophy of your organization has changed over the last year or two.
It hasn't changed.
Well, the reason I conclude that is because we've had so many struggles and so many meetings about our need for the 1.1, and it appears to me your resistance in committing to that.
It's not really, I wouldn't say resistance, that's kind of a strong word.
Okay, it is strong. I meant for it to be strong. So the bottom line is, we can expect the 275 plus the delta and the 91 and the 275 for the first quarter in your second quarter's check.
If our sales portray that, yes, sir. And I think that they will. I mean, November, December are great months for us.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you.
Dave, we're coming all around. We'll come back to you, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief. I am not happy with the distribution from the ABC Board to the County of Pitt for the first quarter. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just find it odd that when things were projected to be flat, they went up, and yet the payment is well over $100,000 short of what we expected. And it seems to me the board's become antagonistic to this board, and I think what Mr. Garrett said was absolutely appropriate. In a time when we are cutting the school system, in a time when we have cut the sheriff's budget, who has to deal with the problems that your product produces, you're expanding working capital, and I think the goal is not to make a payment. I think the goal is to build a new store, ultimately. I don't think it has anything to do with the county, and we've given everything we can. I don't believe it. I think that these numbers are put forth in a way to go with your board's goals of expansion and not this board's goals of supporting the citizens, the school system, and the sheriff's office. That's my personal belief.
Okay.
I'm not speaking for the other 8, but that is what I feel, and that's what I've seen. And it just bothers me because you guys did pay increases this year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
No one else did. Everyone else's budget shrunk. Yours seems to be expanding by the quarters of millions of dollars in a quarter. And yet our payment is $91,000 this year to the citizens. And in between 2008 and 2009, as a total net profit, you lost $200,000 and still made the payment. I don't believe we're being dealt with on the level, and that's my statement.
Thank you, sir. Now, Dave.
Mr. Chairman, today is November the 7th. How can we state, listen to her state, what the net profit of the ABC Board is going to be for the year of 2011 on November the 7th of the year?
Can you answer?
I can't.
All right.
I can tell you what we did last quarter. We may do great this quarter, we may do worse this quarter. I can't predict that. I don't have a crystal ball. But
Anything else, Dave?
our goal here.
Anything else?
No, I just wanted her to answer that for me, please.
All right. Beth, and then Ephraim.
Just to follow up on what Mr. Gary said and what I was trying to put out there, is that if you meet the deficit for this payment to meet the $1 million, with us getting the 91 for this quarter, when you subtract that from 275, you have $184,000 left. If you add 275 for the second quarter, that means that you're saying that could be a payment to us in the second quarter of $459,000. Correct?
Well, I can't tell you that that's what it's going to be exactly. I mean,
No, but all I'm doing is trying to get some figures out there. In other words, to me, it would be a heck of a lot easier right now to pay the 275 and then if you get that extra money, second quarter, that goes back into your fund, and then you'll still only have to make a $275,000.
the thing is we're not going to have to buy as much product. I mean, we're buying product now. It's
Yeah, I
gonna,
understand
it's going to
that.
taper off, and then we'll have that extra money to transfer
I
to the county.
understand that, but I don't think we when we put that figure with it, it's almost $500,000 if we're gonna make up. And it just seems like to me that it's easier to spread your payments out than it is to try to lump two together to play catch-up all
Well,
during
hopefully,
the
we're going to
year.
make more money, more profit off of this, so we'll be able to
Okay,
do
well,
that.
we made more profit than we did last year, and we made this payment, so we're close to it.
Got it? You finished?
That's it, yes, sir.
All right, now Ephraim, and then the manager wants to respond.
Does the ABC owe any capital expenditures from past? Do they have a debt service?
We don't have any debt, no debt whatsoever.
How much do you propose to remodel the stores that you have talked to that's going to cost this year? How much are you going to spend on capital expenditures and updating the stores that you talked about?
Well, we put that in the budget, and I think we talked with Scott and Melanie about that we're going to put all that on hold in order to be able to get the money the county needs.
Okay, is there any increase in salaries of the people that works at the store or your salary
There
coming
was
up?
for the past year, it was budgeted for this year, but we haven't talked about next year yet.
Okay. How much more increase in salaries would that mean in a year?
Dollar-wise,
Yeah.
you have any idea, David? About $7,000 for the store employees.
Okay.
It wasn't a big amount. It was 2% is what we added.
Have you secured any property for a new store?
No, we have not. We put that on hold as well.
Have you paid any money down on it? Yet?
We've not put an
Okay.
option out for land or anything.
Have you selected a site yet?
No. We're looking at property is all we're doing right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Elliott.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In reviewing the situation and the numbers and the audit, and then talking to Ms. Campbell, as we have been sitting down doing on a quarterly basis, as I would sum the situation up, there are competing goals. There's two goals that are competing one against the other. One has been their long-term goal to build their working capital. State statute says they can go up to 16 weeks. Their goal is just to take it to 12 weeks. Problem is they're somewhere 8 weeks plus down here, and they want to build it to that 12 weeks. That goal in and of and by itself is not a bad goal. The other goal that's competing with this is the county commissioners, the board of county commissioners are requesting that the distribution be $1.1 million. You can't meet both goals. You can't build this from 8.5 weeks estimated up to 12 weeks, plus pass a distribution of $1.1 million. Whether you do it in first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, at the end of the day, of the last day of the fiscal year, unless the goal to pass $1.1 million is a higher goal than reaching the 12 weeks of working capital, as I see it, the goals have kind of been switched. In the past, it was that the $1.1 million was the higher arching goal and policy of the board, and they passed it, even if it meant keeping the ABC board's working capital suppressed at 8 weeks plus or minus. But it's been reversed now, where the goal of creating the 12 weeks of working capital supersedes and is higher than passing the $1.1 million. And the way I see it, by June 30th, unless the ABC board changes and says, yes, we will make the $1.1 million the higher superseding goal, I don't see it being passed. I did ask the question to Ms. Campbell when we met last week, with the first quarter being $91,000, if she were to project out second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter using the same methodology, how much would be passed? And I believe you said about $408,000, which is the exact amount of money that is in your adopted budget. And by June 30th, legally, that is all they would have to pass. And that's my summation of the
But that is
situation.
not our goal. Our goal is to make as much profit and pass it on to the county as we can.
But is your goal to pass the $1.1 million higher than building the working
I
capital?
can't say the $1.1 million. I can tell you what the statute says and what we, after we make our statutory distributions, alcohol education, set aside our working capital, doesn't necessarily have to be up to 12 weeks. There's, we can play with that a little bit, as long as we can pass on to the county.
The other point I had made when we met was, asked her, in the change in legislation that requires them now to adopt an annual budget, which they did with and complied, of receiving ethics training and so forth, all that's now in the statute. I said, other than that, has anything changed in the statutes from this current year to prior year to 10 years back? in terms of what is passed. Nothing has changed. The practice is changed. What they are practicing does not meet what they have done in the past. The practice has changed radically to only passing the minimum of what statute says. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second it.
Any discussion? Not, let's vote.
Mr. Manager, didn't you say this was gonna be, discussed later?
Yes, sir.
All right, items decision.
Okay, the first item, Mr. Chairman, you have James Rhodes coming forward for a Metropolitan Planning Organization matter with the transportation priority list. And we have the MPO planner as well.
And Mr. Hammond needs to vote on that last matter.
Dave, check your machine for your last vote.
Daryl,
Confirm.
Vreeland is coming forward as well.
Moving from ABC to MPO. So we're going to talk now about the Metropolitan Planning Organization's Transportation Priority List. It is a new process. You may remember that we've been through prioritizing projects for the whole of Pitt County, for the MPO area, and now we're going through a similar process with the RPO, the Rural Planning Organization. But today we have Daryl Vreeland here, who's the transportation planner for the Greenville Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, and we'll just say MPO, to give you an idea of what the new process is for NCDOT in prioritizing all these transportation projects for the area within the MPO boundary. To orient you a little bit, and this is just a schematic that's on the screen now, this is the black boundary, of course, is the Pitt County boundary. The red line here demonstrates the boundary for the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And remember, this is based on the urban area as defined by the census back in 2000. With the new census that took place in 2010, more than likely we can see an expansion of this particular boundary as those numbers continue to trickle in based on the urban area boundary. So what's included in this area, shown in a light green, is Greenville. To the south in light blue is Winterville, Olive Aden, and also the village of Simpson, as well as some of the unincorporated portions of the county. So with that, we also, since this is a brand new process, have new guidance as of last week as to how to deal with projects that cross either MPO boundaries into the RPO and also outside the county, maybe even into another NCDOT division. So with all that said, you have a new spreadsheet in front of you today that's different than the one that's in your agenda package. And Daryl is here to give you an idea of how we came up with the scoring. And ultimately, what we're here for today is to get an endorsement from you to move forward to the to the Transportation Advisory Committee that Dr. Johnson serves on, for them to approve and move forward with this recommendation on to the Board of Transportation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Daryl.
Thank you, James, and thank you, Board of Commissioners. I also like to thank you, James, for your input and technical expertise you bring to the recommendation, the MPO's recommendation board that makes recommendations to the MPO's policymaking board, which Dr. Johnson is representative on. Again, the purpose this morning, is to obtain a commissioner endorsement of the priority ranking of transportation projects as recommended by the MPO's technical committee and modified by MPO staff to reflect the most recent changes that I'll get into in a minute, most recent guidance given by NCDOT for those projects that cross the MPO boundary. This will give guidance to Commissioner Johnson in his representation of the commission as a whole at the MPO's policymaking board when the board considers the priority list. The priority list is for unfunded projects, and those projects then get sent to DOT for, we hope, funding eventually. So, starting this year, NCDOT implemented a new methodology for the ranking of highway transportation projects. Bicycle and pedestrian are a different issue, but for highway transportation projects, NCDOT now implemented a point system where they allow 1,300 points by each MPO throughout the state and RPO to distribute those points throughout the projects wanted. And each project can receive no more than 100 points. By the way, the Southwest Bypass is not a part of this project ranking system. The Southwest Bypass is legislatively designated as a loop project, and NCDOT ranks all loop projects amongst themselves. And in fact, they even came out with a more updated schedule, which I'll leave up here. I'm not sure what part.
See why
Is it on?
this. We don't have a damn thing.
There it is. It's a little hard to see on this thing. But there are 3 phases of the loop projects that I tried to highlight. I don't know if the highlight shows up on here. And basically this shows, and it's hard to see on the edge of your screen, the previous, there are 3 phases, the previous ranking versus the current schedule, not ranking, the schedule of each phase. And it has been advanced based on financial planning, which with the standard caveats that that is subject to change based on state and federal federal legislation, state fiscal constraints, so on and so forth. So, with that in mind, let's not focus on the Southwest Bypass since that's a completely different process and out of this. So before you is the listing of projects in the spreadsheet format. Let me get my version. On the left part of this process, the total projects scoring from Raleigh, NCDOT, Department of Transportation point of view is derived from 3 different factors. Number 1 is a project's quantitative score. This is a measure of, this is a point assignment of measurable data, pavement condition, for example, congestion, these kind of measurable data points. That is how the quantitative score, the yellow column on your spreadsheet, is derived. The middle column is then the second part of the total scoring picture is the points assigned by the MPO or RPO, or each MPO, in this case Greenville Urban Area MPO. Again, maximum points allowed per project is 100. And the final, not on here because we don't know it yet, is the NCDOT division, local division office assignment of points. They also have 1,300 points division-wide, not just this county or this MPO, for the whole division to assign to their projects in a similar basis. Of course, that's unknown. So let's focus on what we're trying to do is have a recommendation to guide Commissioner Johnson in his representation at the MPO meeting, policymaking board. We can see the TCC, the Technical Committee, recommended a point distribution as shown, generally 100 points for those projects to maximize their funding potential, and generally for the higher ranking projects. On the first page, row number 3 and row number 5 were given 0 points because DOT identified that that could be funded through other funding processes than the TIP process, which this is, the Transportation Improvement Program process. The right-hand column, the staff recommended adjustment of points based on those projects that cross the jurisdictional boundary of the MPO and into the RPO. The guidance from DOT, the late-breaking guidance, is that a project can only receive the percentage of that project's inclusion within the boundary. So if a project is 50% in one boundary, you can only receive 50 points, for example, and then a different entity would choose to assign the remaining 50 points if they so desired. With that in mind, I'll be glad to answer any questions, but the staff recommended, TCC recommended and staff modified based on the late-breaking guidance from DOTs before you and seeking a motion of endorsement for Commissioner Johnson to.
Any questions from the board members?
I want to
Yes.
ask one, excuse me.
All right, Dave, go
Your
ahead.
paper, the newspaper reported, a few weeks ago that there had been some new decisions made relative to the starting date of the Southwest bypass, and I called James about it, and he thanked me for my call and explained to me that there was some new movement on that project, and you were saying that that's not a part of, this report?
Correct. That is not, the Southwest bypass is not a part of this process of the 1,300 points and distribution and so on. It's a different, DOT has a listing of all the legislatively deemed loop, they're called loop projects. Southwest bypass is one of those. And they are ranked based on different criteria than the standard highway projects are. So
Any, Dave?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. McLaughlin.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question. How much the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Project, the committee that you serve on, how much input do you have to recommend to the DOT in terms of how many points is the higher point for special projects? Because I would think that some projects that I see on this list would be in more priority, in my opinion, and probably some of the board opinion, than probably what is up here in terms of the points given. How much input do your board, your improvement committee, have in deciding the number of points, or do you have any?
Well, I think you're talking about the column, the middle column, the TCC recommended points. Right. Or my modification to it based on the guidance. Right. DOT has made the issue, every MPO gets 1,300 points. So the process of an MPO in general and how it works for these points is the technical committee agrees upon, makes a motion, agrees upon a recommendation that you see here in the green column, TCC recommended points, and that motion then goes on to the policymaking board. So this is an agreement, and it was a lengthy discussion, an agreement, working session at the TCC meeting. That then goes to the advisory policymaking board of the MPO that you had served on at one time. Consideration. Did that answer your question, sir?
Okay.
Beth?
Two questions. The ranking, the previous 09 to 11 rank, and some are not available, and I see numbers like 20, 16, 10, 8. Does that mean that the number 3 is ranked third? Or is there, I understand about the quantitative score, but I don't see how does that relate to this?
No, that's just the row number. The previous rank, so this is every 2 years we go through this process. That's the nice part about this. This gets revisited every 2 years as projects get funded or whatnot, new projects are wanted. So it's a living document. So the row number, that's just separate. That's the left-hand most column, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's just the row number. That's just for
Yeah, I
keeping track.
got you.
Okay. The previous rank is where it was 2 years ago, basically. The current proposed rank is indicative by the points given to it. So we have many 100-point projects. So
And they can't all be number 1.
well, right. Basically, it's to maximize those projects' funding potential. Give it 100 points, and hope that somewhere in DOT's scheme something gets funded.
They will rank it.
They will fund it.
Oh,
Right.
I understand
It will
that.
receive a ranking, a final total score, based on, again, the quantitative, the local input, and the DOT
Okay.
assigned, division assigned.
Okay, second question.
Yes.
Number 2, row number 2,
Yes.
does that have anything to do with the stormwater runoff that comes together there at Evans and Arlington? It has to do with the upgrade, the drainage facilities from, the route name is Arlington Boulevard,
Yes.
from Fire Tower over to Fifth Street. So that would be you know, from Arlington over to Fifth Street, but that would affect if there's much drainage. And do you just not know, or do you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
And I don't mean to be putting you on the spot, but
Yeah, that's a technical thing for the City Public Works. But I would say that just based on the description, it does involve upgrading drainage facilities, which seems
Okay.
to be the question you're addressing.
and that's going to affect the area I'm talking about. Is the reason I was asking. Thank you.
Mr. Webb, then Dr. Johnson.
Just two clarification points. When, on number 19, it says widen to multi-lane urban section facility, including bike ped facilities, is that 4-lane, or is that 2 lanes with a turn lane in the middle? Just so I'm clear.
No, that project was to, yeah, and I'm sorry about that. I had to truncate the descriptions in order to make that a new column fit on here, so bear with me on that. Multi-lane would be putting a 4-lane, not a 2-lane with a two-way left turning lane. No, this is for a 4-lane. That is the desire of that
Just a
project.
space issue on here.
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't
Sorry.
understand. And the second one was on row number 9, the Dickinson Avenue between Reed Circle and NC 11. Didn't the city of Greenville pass a bond several years ago to pay for upgrading that? I thought it was the same time they did their stormwater bond I believe that. I mean, I could be wrong. It's something I thought I remembered.
I do not, I can't specifically address that. I don't know. What I can say is that it's on this list because that there isn't funding through other mechanisms, and we're trying, the city is trying through the TIP process, Transportation Improvement Program process.
I didn't know if you had knowledge of it. I thought I'd remember that, but I'm sure it'll make the man that has the fix-it sign pointing to Dickinson Avenue very happy that it's on the list to be prepared.
Dr. Johnson, you got a motion?
No, sir, I don't.
You got a question?
I want Mr. Rhodes back up here. He and I have talked by telephone since the most recent meeting, but I want to know if you have seen this information since you met with the last TCC meeting.
Yes, I did, and what this is really a result of, we had our RPO meeting last week, and we just got this late breaking news about the distribution of the points, and therefore, in turn, Darrell has gone back and changed some of the ones that the TCC had agreed upon previously because they don't match that new policy by DOT. So what I feel like when we get down to this, there are a couple of items that this board may want to consider as to where the points that have now been shuffled out because of the point distribution system, as to whether they're applied to certain projects. For example, where we have shifted all the points from the 2 projects that are across the MPO-RPO boundary, all those points have gone toward the US 264 NC 33 connector. This is on line 16. All 52 of the surplus points have been put on that project. This is staff proposed. So if you don't agree with that, remember when we were dealing with the US 264 East planning project, there was a lot of discussion about the northeast bypass. No points have been attributed to that, but there was also some discussion of an additional bridge between the Hastings Ford Bridge and the Grimeson Bridge Road Bridge as to whether another crossing was needed. That's where these 52 points have been put right now. If you don't believe that's the most viable project, we can move those points elsewhere. On one that does not already have the maximum number of 100 points.
Mr. Chairman, I'm real concerned about what you've been given here, and I was in a meeting several weeks ago, which Mr. Rhodes was not present, and I was not happy with the discussion, and I'm not happy with what's being proposed here without further consideration by Mr. Rhodes and this board. I do not agree. I don't like my name being thrown around. I do not agree with what's being proposed here. I think we need a lot more consideration, and we need to see it before we come before this meeting of the board. And Mr. Rhodes and I have not had a chance to talk in the detail that we need to talk about in terms of what our priorities ought to be. And Mr. Chairman, I would not make a motion or not be in favor of what is being presented to you. We haven't given it proper consideration.
Do you have a indication of how you can accomplish what you desire, Dr. Johnson?
No, there's too much to consider at this meeting of the Board of Commissioners, so I think we need a whole lot more consideration and discussion on the staff level before this board takes any action. And I do not agree with the proposal before us.
James, is there a time frame on this?
Exactly, and again, as with most of these processes that come before us for DOT, this is time sensitive. We are moving forward, looking for endorsements from all the affected local government bodies before the TAC meets later this month, and I believe that's on the 18th, November the 18th. So this is the last opportunity the full board here will have to give some consideration or give some remarks before Dr. Johnson and the group that he sits on makes the ultimate recommendation to the Board of Transportation. So it is time sensitive.
Scott, and then Tom, and then Mr. Williams.
James and Darrell, let me ask you a question. Obviously, this is being presented by the TCC to each of the member jurisdictions of the MPO, and then it goes to the TAC level that Dr. Johnson sits on subsequently after this. Does what is being recommended here by the MPO staff, is it in spirit or in line with what the TCC originally recommended to each of the governing bodies as part of the MPO?
Absolutely. The issue here, the only change is based off the new policy guidance by DOT, where we had surplus points by virtue of those projects that crossed the MPO-RPO boundary. So we have slid those points down the priority list and put those with the project for the connector between US 264 and NC 33.
So you're actually able to make the list more advantageous to Pitt County by being able to apply those points on that project?
If that is the project that this board feels is the next one, yes, that is the case.
Mr. Manager.
Wait a minute, Dave. Tom?
There is some time. If we have to call a special meeting of this board, we don't need to hastily make a decision on this matter. And I think this board needs more information from Mr. Rhodes and perhaps more information from me once I understand. But the meeting I was in several weeks ago, the other MPOs, in my opinion, were taking Pitt County to the cleaners. Clearly. They were going to do us in, and I still believe that this document before us is taking Pitt County to the cleaners.
Dr. Johnson, if I can clarify the two processes. This process here of assigning the points just deals with our one MPO, and this is what DOT is requiring, NCDOT. The process you're talking about is where all the MPOs in eastern North Carolina got together, and it was more of a what if. What if we were to join together as a block and take our points and assign them, and who wins, who loses, who's in the middle, and so forth. That process right now is not in the mix as to how projects are being evaluated.
That is not in the scoring process, but what this board will ultimately see is a resolution coming from that regional group about the support of projects. And the main support project, again, I feel like Pitt County is coming out very well in this regional process. The Southwest bypass is getting #1 billing. I think we've done very good to get a regional process to indicate that. But that project is separate from what you're dealing with today.
Mr. Webb, and then Dave.
Hey, James, just as a point, I did a little checking, and in 2004, the city of Greenville passed a $5.7 million bond for street improvements.
Right.
And I just tend to remember Dickinson Avenue being a big centerpiece of that discussion. I may be wrong. If we could just check on that, just some clarification. Just so that way we're not duplicating. And and we can put points to things that we might want other than that.
And in my opinion, I still think that that can be handled. That's a good recommendation for the TAC to consider. That can be handled at the TAC meeting. If those points can be shifted to other projects, that can be handled at that level.
And again, I could be wrong, but
All right, Dave?
If I look at this chart right, it looked like these projects will proceed about by the way that the North Carolina Department of Transportation have their quantitative score. Is that correct?
This is the second leg of a third leg process. What we've got, and the way you see them listed on this spreadsheet, is the way that DOT first scored them based on a number of criteria. You add to that the scoring that we're proposing from the MPO. Then thirdly, you'll add the points from the local division. So what you're seeing here, first up, is the way DOT gave it to us, but there can be alternate changes based off the scoring from our group and the division. So ultimately, the priority listing you've got here may shuffle some.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. Jones.
this board needs to understand that if you're just talking about our MPO, the small villages and towns can outvote us on every meeting. You have Simpson, you have Winterville, you have Aden in the MPO, and they can outvote us. And I've seen them outvote us in Greenville. And what we're seeing here is the first leg of us being outvoted. And I don't believe this board wants to do this without an additional meeting for us to zero in on what this really says.
All right, what you want to do?
Mr. Chairman, we're talking about two separate things, aren't we? James?
What we're here today for is
I
this
know
listing
what
in
we're
front
here,
of you,
but
yes.
you're here today on this one particular one. And like the project, what I'm interested in is that southwest bypass.
It's not even.
I know the bridge and so forth is not, it's going to be 30 years before we even think about it. So we just spin our wheels back. But we've been talking about that southwest bypass for 20-some years trying
Since
to get it.
1987.
Yeah. And that we should, don't divide us and conquer us. Set your goal on that and go for it.
Well, this isn't going to help the southwest bypass.
I don't know that, but I know what we really do need. And as far as this other stuff, that bridge and so forth, that's a long way. And what I'm talking, that 33 going to Tarboro, that's all when it's been Clark's one of his pushing, and they're out there working, by the way. They've been out there surveying and so forth. How does that stand on the list with the southwest bypass?
Good question. If you'll
Aren't
look,
aren't they on that same page, so to speak? Or different money?
Southwest Bypass is a loop project, completely different and separate.
It's
from what's
completely
reported.
different.
Right.
And this one is completely different.
okay, hold on, Darrell. Number 12 on your list,
Number 12.
row number 12. This is one of the changes, Mr. James, because that particular project, NC 33, is divided into 3 portions. The
I
portion
know.
that you see on here is split evenly between the MPO and RPO. So the maximum number of points that can be given by the MPO is 50 points. That's what staff's recommending. We were at a meeting with the RPO last week. 50 points will also be forwarded over from the RPO. So you get a total of 100 points on that project. So again, we're working in concert to make sure we're maximizing those points.
Right. I was told by the grapevine that it was going to start at 64 in Tarboro, come to the Edgecombe County line. Was that?
Actually, it comes to Scotts Crossroads in section 1, then Scotts Crossroads to Belvoir, section 2, Belvoir into the city or to the loop for the third portion.
And that's a separate thing to what you were saying, even than the Southwest bypass.
Yes, sir. That is a different project.
I mean, I don't.
That is a
That's
separate.
what I've been kind of taught. I know they're surveying and so forth, so that somebody has to give it up.
That is a separate project.
Yeah, okay.
I think we need to divide the projects. It's been told 3 or 4 times that what's one, this is another one. If you know which one is which, let's decide what we want to do. Mr. Garris, did you?
Mr. Chairman, James, as I understand it, all of these projects on this list are Pitt County projects. The technical committee has come up with a recommendation. MPO staff changed that very insignificantly. It impacts 3 projects. What you did was change it so that you could give item 16 some point, some priority.
That is correct.
So I don't know what additional information I need to support this prioritization. Now, the next thing you will do in this process is have like a district meeting with all the MPOs?
No, sir.
Okay, so what is the next step?
The next step is to take it to the MPO Transportation Advisory Committee, and this scoring, as approved by that group, will be forwarded to the Board of Transportation.
Okay, at that next meeting, who will be there other than Pitt County representation?
We have representatives from all the local governments that are part of the MPO, so that will be the City of Greenville, Village of Simpson, Ayden, Winterville, the county, and also a Board of Transportation member.
Okay. So then they will vote on the prioritization there.
That is
That will be
correct.
the official one.
That is correct.
That's where they take us to the cleaners, Mr.
But
Garrett.
I don't know what we can do to prevent them doing whatever they want to do at the next meeting.
The main thing I need to know, and kind of the MPO staff needs to know today, is the 52 points that has been shifted over because of the distribution of those points that were split by projects that cover the MPO-RPO boundary. If you don't agree that the US 264 project is a top priority of those that have not gotten any points, we need to shift those 52 points or split that 52 points into other projects. That is really the crux of what we need to deal with today, in my opinion.
I think that having the 52 points there is good long-range planning. And if we don't give it some value, then we will be sending the message that we in Pitt County don't have any value for that. So I think that's a good point. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
I second.
All right, so now, did you want to say something, Scott?
I was going to say that the 52 points is actually supporting a rural project, not a project within the corporate limits of Greenville, I mean, a widening of NC 11, or, so, I mean, there's balance here. It's not like the MPO staff is looking out for the city of Greenville.
That is correct, and in fact, this project is also split by the MPO boundary, but this point distribution is less than the maximum that we could give it. So we're
Any
good.
further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Dr. John.
If this board wants to approve what's before you today, then the chairman needs to appoint a substitute for the MPO meeting because I can't vote for this.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, you ready to vote?
Chairman, well, I'm hearing it look like we need to table this until we get more information.
We're voting. You don't table nothing once you're voting. Got to carry the
Dave,
motion
you
out.
ready to decide one way or the other?
Thank you.
What's next?
Next, we have the Technology Enterprise Center lease, and we have Scott Pocombe coming up to make this presentation.
Good morning.
Morning.
I think it's very fitting that with Friday being Veterans Day that I come to present this project to you. ECU, they have a program called Project Reentry, and it's to support veterans as they come back, both with helping with PTSD, with dealing with losing their limbs doing battle. The space in the Technology Enterprise Center that ECU is requesting is 2,400 square feet that would house a blast simulator, And nothing is going to be exploded. There's no explosive ordnance that would be there. It's a machine that uses compressed air to simulate the effects of a shock wave of an improvised explosive device. There will be some upfit we need to do to that space. The space has been vacant since the prep shirt days, so it's just a bare concrete floor and a 14-foot ceiling. So it's just going in and making the space houseable, usable for them. Our board, when they voted to support this lease, recommended a $13.50 per square foot per year lease rate for East Carolina over a 3-year period. That would give us a profit every year of $32,508. And with our budget for the upfit, I gave some cushion room of $60,000 from what our estimate has been. And so our return on investment would be 23 months. So we'll be able to get our money back. We'll be able to have a good partnership with East Carolina in this research. And if y'all have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept this recommendation from the Development Commission to lease East Carolina University.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, let's vote.
Second.
Thank you.
Scott, next.
Next, you have on the agenda item for the county attorney to present to you. It's a resolution designating the city of Greenville to perform fire and electrical inspections for the public schools within the corporate limits of Greenville.
You'll have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote. Okay. 68.
If you'd like, Mr. Chairman, I can lay this out for you.
Please.
Okay, this one is the both appointments and reappointments to the Physical Activity and Nutrition Coalition. You have 3 sets of categories of appointments. The first set are reappointments, and that would be for Mary Gaskins, Rita Roy, Alice Keene, Roseanne Simmons, Stephanie Hart, and Karen Warren. And these will be an exception to your appointment policy if you choose to reappoint them, and it's being recommended that you do, if you would consider that.
It's what's pleasure to the
So
board.
moved.
Second.
Vote. Okay.
Second on this, you have a number of people who are not being recommended for reappointment. And the third item is the new applicants, Heather Brown, Thompson Forbes, Betty Friend, David Mills, Chelsea Salisbury, Lewis Holloman, and Natalie Renfro are being recommended as new appointments.
All right. It's a pleasure.
So moved.
Second. Vote.
So actually, there was just 2 official items on there, but 4 pieces of information.
Next appointment list to Pitt Greenville Convention Visitor Authority.
Yes, you have the City of Greenville is recommending Christopher Jenkins to fill the available seat with the attribute resident not involved in tourism convention
We have
center.
a second.
Second.
Ready to vote? All right. That it there?
You do have the item that was added to the agenda, the courthouse
All right.
issue.
This item, I put the copy of the letter, been a request that this county Board of Commissioners, who has the authority to permit and to invite the portraits in the Superior Courtrooms at the courthouse. For many years, this has been a practice. And the 2 that's outlined in your copy that you have there, one is Mr. Lewis W. Gaylord, who is 93 years of age. And for the last 50 years, I'm sure he's been the mentor of every lawyer that's come this way. He is retired at this time. He's still in good health, plays golf, as the letter indicated a little bit. Secondly is Judge Marvin Blunt, Jr., who is deceased, and very outstanding career in the law, and he was taken too early for us, as many of us feel. I move that we...
Second.
Thank you, Dave. I move that we send an invitation to Mr. Gaylord and to Marvin Blunt III, inviting them to display and bring a portrait, which they already have a portrait prepared, and that to be put into the courthouse, and once that portrait is put in there, it becomes the property of the county. And this is a procedure which has gone on for years, that the family would pay for the portrait, and with permission of the commissioners, that it would be located there and become the property of the county. And I make that motion, and Dave, did you second it?
Yes, sir.
Now, any discussion? If not, let's vote. Thank you for your consideration, and Kimberly, you will, and I'll give you this letter, and you'll respond to that. All right, Mr. Manager, what's next?
Next, you have closed session.
It has been suggested that this board go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4 to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body. Also, 143-318.11A3 to consult with an attorney employed by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege. And thirdly, under 143-318.11A1, to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential pursuant to the law of this state or the United States.
Do we have a motion to go into Just before we do that, there's been a request for about a 3-minute displacement area. So we'll be right back.
Well, I think I'll take advantage of that.
Yes. Right, we did. Thank you, Tom.
Yes. Yes.
All right. We're now back in open session. There's a couple of things. We got to do to clear up the rest of the day. First being Dr. Johnson on a previous vote of this board to prompted him to ask that he was resigning from that board and would request that another person be appointed, and if that's a chairman's appointment, I've got the authority, I so do at this time, for the meeting on November the 18th, Friday at 3 p.m., and Mr. Garris, I appoint you to do that. And that would be at Greenville Public Works. Now, I believe we got another motion for the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion that we approve the closed session minutes for October 17th as to the content only.
Second.
All right, let's vote. Any further business of the meeting?
Adjourn.
Not yet.
Yes, sir. That's all.
No, sir. All right, any commissioners' comments? Mr. Webb?
No comments today.
Dr. Johnson? Mr. Garris? Ms. Ward?
No.
Melvin? Eugene?
Yeah, I want us to check into the property that we gave to Pitt Community College pertaining to the fine range, and to look at it and see what we can work out with them for the group that came up here today. I don't know what can be done, but I think we owe it to them to take and to do that. And we own about 90-some acres of land there, which is a lot of land. Pitt Community College does.
You
And
got
I think-
that request, Scott?
I think something can be worked out to help the citizens of Pitt County. Along this line.
Dave, you got comments?
Tomorrow is municipal election day, and that haven't already voted, make sure that we get by the polls. They'll open at 6:30 and they'll close at 7:30 on tomorrow night.
All right, sure. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Let's vote. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful day.
David, Mr. James, somebody hit confirm.
Oh, was that for me?